Come on in. London Centre for Policy Research President Herb London is with us. Herb, I can just sense a military confrontation coming here between Iran and Israel and the United States and maybe even Saudi Arabia.
Well, it's very likely, but I keep in mind that the Russians have a veto here. And the Russians clearly play a role with Iran. Several weeks ago, the Russians attacked an American brigade. They got mauled in the process. They do not want a direct confrontation with the United States or direct confrontation with Israel. One of the reasons why Netanyahu has visited Putin 7 times in the last few months is because he said, look, stay out of harm's way. If we have to attack Hezbollah, we do not want to kill Russians in the process.
Wait a minute, how many meetings? Bibi's had how many meetings
At
with
least
Putin?
7.
In recent months?
That's correct.
7?
That's correct.
Did Bibi go to Moscow? I wasn't aware of all of this.
Well, again, a lot of this is back-channel activity. But there's no reason why the Israelis should in any way tolerate this kind of Iranian border activity. Because if, in fact, that is going to occur, they are going to be obliged to attack. What will the Russians do under those circumstances? The Russian alliance with Iran has undoubtedly created great confusion in that part of the world, with the United States not entirely sure about its policy in the post-ISIS period. And so the United States now is saying, you know what? We are going to play a role here, but we want to make sure that the Iranians are not going to build this base, and we're going to be sure.
They're building it.
Well, you say they're building it. Again, the Russians have a veto. And my suspicion is that the United States is probably speaking to the Russians right now, saying, peel off from your alliance with the Iranians, because it's going to put you in direct confrontation with the United States yet again.
I find that fascinating, that the Russian veto possibly right there. Yeah. That's fascinating stuff, Herb. I wasn't aware of all this. I didn't realize that was going on in the background. But I am very aware of the European elections, and so are you. I mean, the parties which created European socialism are losing power. They're falling apart. The anti-establishment parties in Italy won big in the elections yesterday, and Angela Merkel, she's having real trouble maintaining a stable centrist coalition.
This is true throughout Europe. It is the radicalization of European politics. It has been brought about in large part because of the migrant crisis that Merkel introduced. And now we are facing a problem all through Europe. In the case of the Eastern Europeans, they are saying, you know what? March through Hungary, march through Poland on your way to Germany, but don't stop here. Mr. Orban has made it perfectly clear. But in the rest of Europe, there is no doubt. You're seeing very radical sentiments now emerging on the political front.
We were told that populism was dying. It had reached a peak in Europe maybe last year or whatever. But no, I mean, it's very much a force. I think the unraveling of Europe as we know it continues. Now, that could be a very dangerous thing.
It's a very dangerous thing indeed. Europe represents the first barricade against radical behavior in the Western Hemisphere. And we are very much concerned about what happens in Europe. If, in fact, we start to see radical parties of the left or the right, it seems to me you're going to see a Europe very different from the kind of moderate European attitudes we've experienced in the past.
And a striking phenomenon, Reuters reporting that countries in Europe have built 750 miles worth of fencing and border walls in various countries throughout the EU.
Really?
Yeah, so.
Who said things fall apart, the centre cannot hold?
Churchill.
Yates.
Yates.
William Butler Yeats.
A very famous poem.
It is, and he was right. He wrote it 100 years ago, but you could write it today and apply it to Europe, and you're absolutely right.
I used it as the first paragraph in a book that I wrote.
Did you really?
Because it strikes me that what we are seeing in the 21st century is the centre will not hold.
Yeah.
It may not hold here.
Well said, Herb London.
And Churchill probably quoted him.
Herb, thank you very much, sir.